Hi everybody, welcome to Live Blogger. In the last video I showed you how to design this tab layout using HTML and CSS. Now in this video we will add some JavaScript and make it work so that when we click on any of these tab headings, the content of that tab will be displayed over here. So if you go to the original design, we can see that when we click on the second tab heading, the second content is being displayed over here, and the same goes with the third tab heading as well. And we also have this animation when the content appears. So this is what we're going to do in this video. So let's get started. Now the first thing we'll do is create a new JavaScript file. So let's go over here to files and click on new file, and we'll name this file main.js. And we'll also link it in our HTML file. So let's go over here to the bottom of our page, and just before the body ends we will just go ahead and create a script tag, and in that we'll just type src and we'll type main.js over here. Now there are some things we need to reference from this HTML. So we need to reference all the different panels. So for each of the panels we will have different classes. So for this panel we will have a class called WordPress, so that we can reference this in our JavaScript. So in the same way we will add a class called Blogger over here in the second panel, and for the third panel we will have a class called Wix, and the same goes with the tab headings. So let's scroll up, and here we have three tabs. For the first one we will just type WordPress, and we'll just give it a class of WordPress btn, and then for the Blogger we will have Blogger btn, and for Wix we will have Wix btn. Alright, so now let's go to our JavaScript and let's reference all these elements. So first of all we will reference all the panels. So we'll type const WordPress panel equals document.querySelector, and here we will type panels container WordPress. Now in the same way we will reference the other panels as well. So we'll type const Blogger panel equals document.querySelector panels container Blogger, and then the third panel Wix panel equals document.querySelector panels container Wix. Now let's reference the buttons. So I'll type const WordPress button equals document.querySelector, and we'll type tabs container WordPress btn, and the same with the other buttons. Now let's add event listeners to these buttons. So here we will type WordPress button dot add event listener for the click event, and we'll create an arrow function over here. Now when we click on this WordPress button, we want this WordPress panel to be displayed over here, and to display that we need to have the active class applied to the panel. So here we'll type WordPress panel dot class list dot add, and we will add the active class. Now when we add the active class to one of the panels, we want to remove the active class from the other panels as well. So now when you click on the Blogger heading, we want the Blogger panel to have the active class, and the WordPress panel should not be having the active class. So let's go ahead and type Blogger panel dot class list dot remove active, and in the same way we will also add Wix panel. Now you can just copy this and paste it once more for the Blogger button, and for the Blogger button we want to add active class to the Blogger panel. So here we will type add, and we will remove the class from here. So now let's check whether it works. So let's click on the Blogger button, and we can see that the Blogger panel is being displayed, and when we click on the WordPress button, the WordPress panel is being displayed. Now this code seems a little bit redundant because we have these 3 lines of code in every single event listeners. So what we can do is we can create a function specifically for removing the active class from all these panels, and then we can add the active class to whichever panel we want. So let's go ahead and create a function, and we will name it remove active from all panels, And we'll just copy these 3 lines of code from here, and we'll just remove the active class from all the panels. Alright, now what we can do over here is just call the function called remove active class from all the panels, and then simply add the active class to the WordPress panel. So we'll type WordPress panel.classlist.add active. We can do the same with the blogger button and the Wix button. So here we will type remove active class from all panels, blogger panel.classlist.add active, and I'll just copy this for the Wix button and Wix panel. Alright, now let's check whether everything works alright. So let's click on the blogger button, and we can see the blogger content is being displayed. The Wix content is also being displayed. So the panels are being activated. Now when we click on any of these tab headings, that heading should be active. So for that we will need to add the active class to the buttons as well. So we have to first of all remove the active class from the tab headings as well. So we'll do the same thing as we did with the panels. So let's create a new function and we'll type remove active from all buttons, and we'll type WordPress button.classlist.remove active, and I'll just duplicate this, and here we'll type blogger button and Wix button. So now in the event listeners we can just call the functions. So he will type remove active class from all buttons and WordPress button.classlist.add active. So I'll just copy these 2 lines of code and we'll paste it over here, and here we will type blogger button, and then here as well, and here we'll type Wix button. Alright, now let's check whether it works. So let's click on the blogger button, and the blogger content is being displayed, and the tab heading is active, and everything is working alright. Now when we click on any of these buttons, we also want the animation to happen. Let's go to the style.css, and here we will add a transition. So I'll type transition, and we'll set the transition to 500 milliseconds. So now we can see that the animation is working. But if you go to the original design, we have some bouncing effect over here as well. So for that you can use a cubic Bezier. So let's go over here, and for the timing function we'll just type cubic Bezier, and this is the value that I came up with, 0.24, 1.57, 1 and 1. So let's go ahead and click on the second button, and we can see that the bounce effect is working alright. We'll also add a transition delay, so that once this panel moves to the right, the active panel must come a little late. So for that here we will type transition delay, and we'll set the transition delay to 100 milliseconds. So here we can see that the animation is working alright. Now if you want the animation to be a little bit slower, then you can go ahead and change this value in transitions. So if you change this to say 800 milliseconds, we can see that the animation is a little bit slower. Let's change this to 1200 milliseconds, and the animation is much slower. You can even change these transition delays from here and get the desired effect you want. Now the last thing I want to do over here is to add a margin bottom to the tab's container division. So right now our panels are set to position absolute, which means that it is outside the document flow, which means that the other elements in our document does not know that this element exists over here. So for example, if we go over here to index.html, and after the tabs container division, if we add an h1 and we'll just type hi over here, we can see that hi is displayed over here, and it doesn't know that this element exists over here. So if we add some text over here, it will conflict with this tabs container element over here. So we need to set a margin bottom to the tabs container division, so that all the elements that are around this tabs container division will be positioned correctly. So for that we'll go ahead and go to our JavaScript file, and we'll calculate the height of the panels and set the margins accordingly. So let's go over here and create a new variable, and we'll name it active panel, and in the beginning it will be WordPress panel, and then we'll create a function to calculate the height, and we'll call it calculate height, and in that we'll create a new variable, and we will name it panel height, and we'll set that equal to the active panel dot client height. So the client height gives us the height of the element, and then we can set the margin bottom of the tabs container. So first of all, let's reference tab container over here. So we'll type const tabs container, and we'll set it equal to document dot query selector tabs container. So let's set the margin bottom of the tabs container. So we'll type tabs container dot style dot margin bottom, and we'll set the value to panel height, which is what we get from here, and we are calculating the height of the active panel. And then we'll also concatenate pixels over here. Alright, now let's call the function. So here we will type calculate height, and we can see that the margin is being calculated and our heading is at the bottom of the panel. Now we need to change the margins according to the panel. So if you go to the second panel, we have a lesser height, and this margin should be decreased. So for that, every time we click on any of these tab headings, we need to calculate the margin. So let's go ahead and in our event listeners, we will just add 2 more lines of code. So first of all, we will set the active panel to water panel is being activated. So here we have WordPress panel, and then we will calculate the height, and I'll just copy this and paste it down here. And for this one we have the blogger panel, and lastly over here we have Wix panel. Right, now let's click on the second tab heading, and we can see that the margin is calculated correctly. Alright, so that's basically it for this video. In the next video I'll show you how to add this to your Blogger and your WordPress websites. So if you like this video, please click on the like button, and if you have any doubts you can ask in the comments below, and subscribe to this channel to get the latest video updates. Thanks a lot for watching. Have a nice day.